here. As it says, my name's Katie Taylor, and I just want to spend just a moment talking a little bit about my organisation, the Agile Business Consortium. So the Agile Business Consortium was actually created in 1994, and it was Dave Snowden, Ed Holt, and a few others in the software engineering field that got together and asked themselves that classic question: how can we do this better? So they ended up putting together a customer-centric method known as DSDM. Some of you may even be old enough to actually remember DSDM. So they actually set up the consortium as the not-for-profit body that would help other organisations who wanted to use DSDM. Okay, so if you're doing the maths, yes, that was before the Agile Manifesto, which came along in 2001. And we were original signatories there. We had Ari van Bennekom that went out and represented us there. So for me, Agile and the consortium came around in the early 2000s. And it was one of those eureka moments where I actually had a name for the way that I seem to have been working for quite a while. So that was kind of really useful for me. And also, since then, I've been a practitioner, I've been a consultant, I've been an academic. Director of the consortium for 20 years, and for the last 3 years have had the privilege of being the chair of the organisation. So, as we move forward, what I would like to do in this session, that's not moving forward, okay. All right, is to talk a little bit about the experiences that I've had and the experiences from other organisations, because we're all struggling to make sense of this uncertain and complex world in which we live. So as we start to move forward, what we need to do is ask ourselves, how is it that we can make our organisations more flexible, more adaptable, what it is that we can actually do to get them to transform, okay? There is lots of evidence out there that says getting organisations to transform is actually quite difficult. And when you look at some of the statistics, they are actually quite scary. So when you look and think about that that half the organisations that were there 20 years ago have disappeared. Even when you start looking at organisations that are setting themselves up now, there are some quite scary looking sort of statistics about 1 in 5 of the organisations don't make it through their first year. Those figures jump up to something like nearly 50% of the organisations will be out of business within 5 years, and something like 65% of them will have gone within 10 years. Okay, so there is real evidence that we've got to do something about this and to make some changes. Okay. So what we need to look at is the idea of transformation. So when you're looking at transformation, we know that this is not easy, okay? And there are some, again, looking back at the history, it was John Cotter that in the mid-90s that said something like 70% of organisations actually fail in the major transformations that they are trying to do. Okay, so, you know, the evidence is not good of what goes on there. So, yes, we need to transform to get organisations to survive and to thrive, but the record of organisations doing it is not good. Okay, so is there anything we can do to get these slides to work? Okay, so when you look at the current side, if Cotter says 70% is not working, guess what? When we look at the current figures, then it's even worse in some respects, because more recent research is showing us that only 22% of organizations are actually successfully transforming. So that's now 78% that is actually failing. So not very good at all. When we start to look at the reasons behind why people fail, John Cotter's research was saying that organizations fail because they don't take a holistic view of the transformation. More recent research is around that organizations don't consult and don't work with their employers and their stakeholders more widely. Okay, so there's lots of evidence as to failures and why, but we've also got lots of powerful stories about organizations that have transformed quite well. And you can see there are some examples here. I'm sure you can come across others as well. But what I think these examples are showing us is that it is the people that are the important part. They are the catalyst for change, and they are the deliverers of successful transformation. So we need to really start paying attention to the idea of people. This confirms what we find when we do our annual Business Agility Awards. So what we've got is that organizations, any size, any sector, any sort of type of industry, actually write up their stories and submit it to us. It's then peer reviewed, and the best examples of good practice are invited to present at the conference, the awards conference in April. Okay? But what this shows us is that it gives the organizations a lot of benefits, and they find value in it. What they say to us is that using the framework that we give them, it gives them a useful way to reflect on their progress. It also, when they get the feedback from the 3 independent reviewers, it allows them to have something to work on for their future progress. And they also can use their report that they've got as a way to influence other decision makers. So there's a lot of benefits organizations get from going through the process. I've picked out here some of the different examples that have come up from this year's awards process. And as you can see, leadership figures quite heavily there, that all of the organizations recognized it as the most important factor. It's also about leaders being authentic and being the change that they want to see, and to lead by example. You can see quite a few of the agile values there around trust, transparency, honesty, resilience, come up frequently and are considered to be important. And also the last one there, recognizing that it's not just about the tools, the process, the method. It's around how you influence the culture of an organization and the wider ecosystem in which it sits. So from those interesting pieces of learning, we can start to see that it's quite useful to have a model to work to. So this is our framework for business agility. It puts culture, leadership, and governance at the heart of any organization, onto which you can then build how it operates, how the support functions work, and that might be HR or finance, and also how it learns and changes. But remembering all of the time that it's about the outward-facing people, customers, and ecosystem which are the most valuable. Okay. So having that framework is a useful start. And as we say, leadership from all sorts of areas comes out as very important. And there was a fascinating conversation yesterday in Shannon's workshop, which was around are leaders born or can they learn? So it was the nature versus nurture argument. For me, I believe it's both. That yes, there are natural leaders, not perhaps the charismatic type, but the people that naturally lead, and particularly in times of crisis, the people that we trust. But I also believe we are all capable of getting better at whatever we do, and that includes leadership. So there is a lot we can do to develop ourselves, and it's got to start here. It's got to start with ourselves, and if we start to become a lot more aware of what we see, of how we feel, and of how we think, then it's got to be able to influence and make us work better by appreciating how other people think and feel and see. So there are some sort of important elements there that we need to pay attention to for ourselves. So if it starts with the idea of awareness, have a look at the 9 principles of agile leadership. Totally appreciate the text is far too small for you to see here, but please have a look at the Q code, download them, have a look at them in your own time. Okay, so what we're looking for here is to be able to show what we understand to be agile leadership. And how are you doing in each of those particular areas? And to help you in that, we've put together a simple online free survey. Again, a QR code there for you to have a look at. And start to, be honest with yourself. If you fill this in, it is anonymous. These answers that you give, only you will see. And as you submit the form, it automatically is there for you to download. So there's also a group report. So if you wanted to do the same kind of exercise with a team, a department, or across the whole organization, then it's there to do so. But as it is with many of these instruments, the feedback is only the first part. The report only goes so far. And it's actually the depth of the conversations that it initiates that is of value. And for that reason, we often do a facilitated session with you to make sure you get the most value out of that information that is there. So this is my call to action to you, okay? Start thinking about your own self-awareness. Start to have a look at the 9 principles for agile leadership so that you can understand the areas where you can grow, and use it also as a way of sharing with those that you're working with to help them understand what agile leadership is about. So I just want to leave you with a final thought there. And just don't get hung up with business agility. It isn't the destination of where you want to be. It is really just a means to an end. So it doesn't matter what the method, the tools, whatever. What we have to remember that the fundamentally important thing about what the message we're trying to get across here is that it's about the people, okay? And that starts with you. So my call is to start to get you to look at yourself and grow so that we can help those around us grow. Thank you.
Katie, that was really awesome. I do have quick questions.
Okay.
You talked about 22% of successful transformation. What is the time span for that? Like, are we talking about 2 years, 1 year? What does it look like on average?
Okay, so the report that came from was looking at the past 3 years worth of data. So in the last 3 years, there's not really a lot of companies that are getting this right when they're trying to do the transformation.
Okay, excellent, good. And then you talked about Cotter, so there's a little bit of mixing with change management, right?
Yep.
Excellent, this is really cool. And I can't wait to download some of the tools. Okay, that was great. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain this to us.
Thank you.